primetime news. This is Fox 17 News at 9.
We begin with breaking news tonight out of Nashville as a peaceful rally over the death of George Floyd has now turned into riots. There is now a 10 p.m. curfew for Nashville, and Mayor John Cooper has called for a state of civil emergency. We have a live look right now over downtown. Take a look at this. You can see the crowds remaining out there on the streets as we speak. Now, the day started with a peaceful I Will Breathe rally at Legislative Plaza, but then after that rally wrapped up, some members of the crowd began throwing rocks at the downtown police station. At one point, the crowd shattered glass at the Metro Courthouse and started a fire near the entrance. That's what you're looking at right now. Thankfully, that fire was quickly put out, but demonstrators repeatedly tried again. Right now, Fox 17 News' AJ Abel. He's been out there in the crowd since all of this began. He is joining us from downtown with the latest. AJ, what do we need to know?
Yeah, Erica, well, here's the scene at the courthouse right now behind me. You can see a lot of the crowds, a lot of people here. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of cars here as well. But what's been happening here throughout this we are far away because we are not allowed to be on the lawn of the courthouse. Police did use tear gas a little bit earlier today, so I know it doesn't look like it right now, and I'm sorry for all these profanities, but we are live. It doesn't look like now, but things have quieted down in the past about 10, 15 minutes or so. About half hour, 45 minutes ago, there was actually fire inside of the building, inside of the windows of that courthouse, and you could see the fire alarms going off. You could see the water running down, and people were actively taking things. They were taking big cardboard boxes, whatever else, and they were burning them. They were throwing them inside the building. So police ended up coming out and using tear gas and dispersing all those people from the lawn. So this is what the scene is right now. Really, it's what's happening is a wave of destruction is moving away from the courthouse all the way over here. There were those huge lamps. I'm not sure if you can see that, but the huge lamps, people were waving them back and forth, and all of those have been leveled, I think 5 or 6 of them. So this is the scene right now. People just gathered around the courthouse really waiting to see what's going to happen next. Police are at the front steps of the courthouse with their bikes in front of it. There's a truck there, and they are issuing those warnings saying, citizens, please get away from the courthouse. We will be using tear gas. So that's the situation right now. We're going to be live here all night. We'll be checking in back and forth with all the latest. But for now, AJ Abel live in front of the courthouse. Fox 17 News, your that station.
Certainly a lot going on right there. Now, after the rally, a group moved further downtown, damaging the Metro police car that you're looking at right now. They broke out windows and spray painted obscenities on the side of the cruiser. This photo, by the way, is courtesy of the Tennessean. So our team coverage now continuing at the state capitol where protesters have taken down light poles. Fox 17 News' Nikki Jenowitz is live right there. Nikki, what can you tell us? What do we need to know at this moment?
Yes, Erica, we are here live along 3rd Avenue and Diedrich Street, also nearby the Metro Courthouse. And the message the Metro Police are sending to these protesters here tonight, and you might be able to hear it at some point over the intercom here, is disperse or be arrested. They are telling these protesters they need to get off the property. And I'm going to give you a little look at what's been going on here today. So if you take a look right here, for example, a pole like this. These are poles that are, as you can see, cemented into the ground. What these protesters were doing is they were shaking them, uprooting them out of the stone here, out of the brick, and then pushing them over. Glass was shattering everywhere. And that is why, if you look behind me there, you can see it is very dark. Normally, the Metro Courthouse, Public Square Park here, is illuminated, but not tonight because all of these light posts have been knocked down by protesters. You probably hear that popping noise behind me in the background. I am told those are fireworks. If you look to in front of the Metro Courthouse here, now you can see there is a line of Metro police officers guarding it. As you had mentioned earlier, there were protesters who reportedly tried to set the courthouse on fire. You can still hear the sirens going off inside there from when that happened. Earlier as well, down at Central Precinct, there was also a line of police officers there who were trying to protect the Central Precinct as well. And these protesters, I will tell you, were really getting very close to the faces of these Metro police officers. Okay, now what we're seeing here, we'll just go this way. You can see that Metro police are now moving forward to the protesters. They are closing the perimeter here. Throughout the evening here, we have seen bursts of tear gas going out. And obviously, whenever that happens, there are groups that run, but there are also groups that stay. They feel very strongly about staying here tonight. So, yes, as you can see, it looks like they are spreading out. here. Again, this is just an effort to protect the Metro Courthouse. But obviously earlier they got very close to the Metro Courthouse. Many of our public buildings downtown, from Music City Center to the train station to, of course, the Metro Courthouse here as well, covered in graffiti. Okay, now we can see a police vehicle is driving to the grass. Okay. They are saying this is the Metro Police. You can no longer be on the property. You have to disperse. There are a lot of people here who are not listening to those commands from Metro Police. So now it appears that there is some sort of, it almost looks like a standoff right now between the Metro Police officers and these protesters. You can see one of the protesters appears to be holding one of those light posts that I was just telling you about, and he's holding it as if it's a javelin, almost, like he is about to hurl it. We also, something just got thrown into the crowd, but I believe it's just a water bottle. Okay, we're gonna get closer to give you a better perspective here. You can see there's a lot of shattered glass here. It is not safe to be here. Now, these protesters are saying, we're on taxpayer property. We're allowed to be here. That is what they are saying. That is their message. Several of these protesters have signs.
Black Lives Matter. Join the movement.
They are chanting.
Metro Police, you can no longer be on the property. You have to disperse.
Okay. So as you can see, there's a military vehicle now that is sort of approaching the crowd here across the green. And there is still that one protester that is holding, he's holding the light post, vertical there. I'm not sure what he plans to do with it, but it looks, okay, I believe that's another firework that just went into the grass there. It almost looks like he's about to charge the building. That is what it looks like here. Now, I want to give a message to viewers at home. If you are at home,
Come on, let's go.
that is a good call, and here's why. Walking up here from south of Broadway up north, we saw a lot of protesters taking things like trash cans, street signs, and throwing them at cars, at drivers, into the middle of the street. A lot of the roads in Nashville right now are not safe to drive on for this very reason. Okay, so now the protesters are inching closer to this police line. They are chanting, "No justice, no peace." And they're also saying, "I can't breathe." The vehicle is inching closer. Ah! Okay, whoa, go! Okay, what you just saw there, I believe, is a firework that was grown onto the grass. So, Erica, we're going to head back to the studio and try to scoot back here a little bit. Okay.
Message that she was telling us about disperse, that's a message that Nashville Mayor John Cooper tweeted out about 40 minutes ago. He said, if you mean our city any harm, go home. Right now we're going to send it back over to Fox 17 News' AJ Abel. He has another update about what exactly he's seeing in his area. AJ, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Erica, really is just a fluid situation right now. And here's what it looks like right now. You see that smoke right there? That is tear gas or fireworks that has been thrown out in the lawn. And what's been happening here throughout the past, 10, 15, 20 minutes is it gets a little bit calmer. And all of a sudden, as people retreat and come out a little bit, as it gets calmer, people go right back in there. And then we see this scene right here. You can see the people running away and running away. Now, police officers are there at the front steps of that Metro Courthouse. They're there. Effectively, what they're doing is they're guarding the courthouse. They have their bicycles in front of them, and they're all standing there in a line. There is a SWAT truck there as well. And as people start going back in, and as people, sorry about that, and as people start going back in, So, and this is what it is. This is live right here. This is right in the middle. It's right in the middle of what it is. So as it starts calming down, people come right back in. And as people start getting right back in, then the police officers deploy that tear gas again. And this is this is what the scene is. So this is a man right here. He just took
to Nikki Janowitz in the field. She's giving us another update about what she's seeing over there. Can we go back to Nikki real quick?
Dicus!
All right, so right now you see Nikki is standing in the historic Metro Courthouse area right outside of there, but there's a lot going on. We have smoke. We have a lot of loud bangs. We just don't know exactly what is going on there at the moment. As you just heard, our reporter, Fox 17 News' Nikki Janowitz, she was screaming for our photographer, Dicus, and they are, as you can see, moving around a lot, trying to get to a safe area to give us another update about everything that they're seeing. But their biggest messages from the officers are, hey, disperse, leave this area. And you can see right now we're seeing more flames, more smoke. Nikki is looking like she can talk to us. Nikki, can you give us an update? What exactly are you seeing right now?
Black Lives Matter!
Yes, Erica, we are here live outside the Metro Courthouse where there are just plumes of smoke billowing here. Metro Police are making a full effort to get these protesters off of this property. As you can see, they are approaching the protesters, trying to get them off the property.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
And that is another firework that you just heard there.
Good job! You guys are so
Here, careful.
You guys are so
Careful, you're gonna fall.
cool.
Careful. Okay.
Wow, I wish I could be you one day, you fucking scrubs.
Okay,
you
so
fucking scrubs.
as you can hear, these protesters are engaging in a back and forth with these Metro Police officers. However, the officers are making an effort not to engage. They're just trying to move these protesters off of Public Square Park.
Did you get your arms from the government? That's really cool. Black Lives Matter!
They are still chanting, as you might heard there, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
So just to give you
Black Lives Matter!
to backtrack a little bit to tell you kind of how we got to this point. Earlier, the very Metro Police officers that you see just feet in front of me had formed a perimeter outside of the Metro Courthouse, and they were sending a message over the intercom, disperse or get arrested. That was the message of these protesters. However, the protesters came closer towards them, and now they have come out into the crowd to get the protesters off of the property. So,
Nikki, are you noticing that more demonstrators or protesters are starting to leave that area as officers make their way further and further out? Are you noticing that people are still sticking around? I know you've been out there for quite some time now.
You ain't shit.
That's a good question, Erica. It's kind of a mix. Some folks are saying, well, I will tell you.
You ain't fucking tough.
It depends. There are far fewer protesters here than there were earlier. However, all of the smoke, all of the fumes from both the tear gas as well as the fireworks, as I'm speaking to you right now, it is very hard to breathe. My throat is burning, my eyes are burning, my nose is burning. It is uncomfortable to be out here, and that is ultimately likely what will cause a lot of these protesters to leave. Earlier, I spoke with some of these folks who really came out here from all over Middle Tennessee, some as far as Bowling Green, because they said they feel really strongly about these issues. They say enough is enough. They said, of course, what they're doing here today was prompted by what happened to George Floyd or what was depicted in that video. But this is about so much more than that. They say that they feel like this is about decades of injustice. And to them, they tell me this was just the last straw for them.
Fuck any race.
And Nikki, I know you said it's difficult for you to talk and breathe at the moment, but you were at that rally earlier today. Are these some of the same protesters that you saw at that rally? Are you seeing just new people coming into this area?
Honestly, Erica, to me, this group versus that group, it really feels like night and day. The protest that we covered earlier outside of Legislative Plaza was unbelievably peaceful. Everyone was incredibly courteous to one another. You would bump into somebody and they would say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, please excuse me." There was no yelling. There was no profanity. There were signs, but I didn't see, there was no yelling. There was no controversy. It was incredibly peaceful. And I think for Metro leaders, they were really hoping that would carry on into the evening hours. But as we've been showing you, that is very clearly not the case here. Tomorrow, when the sun rises and we really get to see the true extent of the damage here, I think it's going to be incredibly unsettling. And you were talking about, this is an area where just a few blocks ago it was destroyed by a tornado. This, I will tell you, given all of the structures that are knocked down, it almost looks like this is a different kind of a force of nature that we are feeling out here. I will tell you, a lot of Metro buildings downtown have spray paint all over them. If you are out in this community tomorrow, you will notice that very readily. A lot of the streets here downtown are closed off, and a lot of that is a doing of the protesters. Earlier, they were taking trash cans, street signs, blocking off the streets on their own. So they really want to send a strong message. And the one thing that we've also been showing you earlier today is we've seen pictures of children. I have seen a lot of families out here, and I talked to their parents. And I said, what made you want to bring your kids out here? And they said because they feel that these protests are about their future. And that's why they wanted them to see this part of their history, and they wanted them to experience it for themselves. I asked them, I said, are you concerned at all about some of the things that they might see and hear, and if that might upset them? And they said they think that it's really important for them to experience this firsthand. So you can probably hear from around me now. It's a lot quieter out here than it was even just a few moments ago. It does seem like this latest police effort to get protesters off of outside of the Metro courthouse has been effective. Now, though, I will tell you that was another firework, I believe. As you just heard, that is very startling, and that has also been effective in trying to get these protesters to go home. It's one of the methods that's been deployed here tonight. Now this group that you see here, I believe, has been kind of going back and forth between Central Precinct downtown, where earlier they were attempting to throw bricks at the Metro Police Precinct. There is, I believe, still a police perimeter there as well. That group then traveled up here to the Metro Courthouse. So now we're seeing obviously a lot of sirens going off, but we're not exactly sure if there is another. Yeah, you can see folks are carrying things like the furniture from the Metro Courthouse as well. There's a lot of signage that's been put up around the area as well.
And Nikki, I know that right now you're standing, outside of the historic Metro Courthouse. Do we know about any of the other buildings that are in this area? Have you heard anything about that?
Eric, I haven't. It seems, I don't want to speak too soon, but it seems so far to be contained to the Metro Courthouse area. That also includes part of the parking structures as well. There's also like a kind of like a splash pad out here as well. You can see now it's totally covered in glass and debris, plants, garbage, those sorts of things. People have just, I believe they were trying to pick the planters up earlier, knock over the trash cans. I'll level with you. It is a mess out here. It is a mess.
And Nikki, I really want to emphasize, earlier you were at that rally and it was peaceful. There were definitely not this scenario that we're talking about right now. Did you imagine when you were at that rally a couple of hours ago that hours from now, tonight, you were going to be facing this?
No. When we were out there earlier, it went so well. It was so peaceful. It was so just kind-hearted and gentle in nature that I think everybody was really hoping that would be Nashville's rally, that would be the extent of what we would see here today. Obviously, though, that is not the case. At that rally earlier, again, it was very calm, it was very quiet, it was very peaceful. There were speeches, there was singing, people were holding hands. The difference is truly night and day, and I do feel like that is why we're seeing this now, as we saw in other cities across America and in Minneapolis as well. With nightfall comes more of this activity. That is certainly at least what we are seeing here in Nashville tonight. Also speaking to some protesters today, a lot of these people have told me that they don't approve of this. They're not happy about this. They feel like this is not a reflection of them and why they're here. They wanted to protest at night, but they didn't want this. So they want people to understand that this is not a reflection of all of these protesters. Some people just want to send a peaceful message that they feel like they have had enough. They feel like they have suffered decades upon decades of injustice from law enforcement. And this case out of Minneapolis is just the latest example. They said, obviously, well, those images, the video that came out depicting George Floyd were heartbreaking, and that may have been what prompted this. It's really not. It's not just about this. It is about so much more. Yep, you can see there, folks are now trying to uproot what looks like street signs behind me. Okay. Oh, thank you for telling me. And I just saw. Thank you. One of the protesters just came out to me and showed me that she got a push alert on her phone. Is that where it was from? Saying that Nashville's now under a 10 p.m. curfew for tonight.
Just went over everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. More fireworks there just went off behind me. I believe they are now going off, or about to go off in front of the Fairlane Hotel. Excuse me. All right, Erica, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
Nikki, thank you. And as she just mentioned, Nashville is under a 10 p.m. curfew. Again, a 10 p.m. curfew. And we do want to apologize for any profanity that you might hear. Of course, this is an active scenario, and we just don't know what we're going to hear because there's so much going on. And in fact, we want to go right back to Fox 17 News' AJ Abel. AJ, it sounds a little bit quieter now. Hopefully, can you tell us what you're hearing now?
Yeah, and it's like you said, there's really no way to know what you're going to see or what you're going to hear because everything happens here. It happens so quickly, and it's such a fluid situation. So last time we talked to you, you saw what the scene was. There were people all around us, everybody running out. This is the most peaceful this has been in probably the last 15 minutes. So since the last time we talked, we actually were in the middle of that tear gas ourselves, and this moves quick. So you saw those people running out, and before you know it, my photographer and I, it comes up very quick. We're crying, our faces are burning, and we're running out, struggling to breathe along with everybody else. And this is what it leads to. It's what I was saying last time. You know, it gets a little bit calmer, and then people go right back in there. And as they deploy that tear gas again, people start running back out. So now we're trying to really figure out if we think people are going to come back here at any point. What you're seeing right there, you see all of those officers standing there. They are moving closer and closer to the street. This wasn't the case, even an hour ago. And I think as the evening is progressing, and I think as they are figuring out that people are going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, they're just going to move their way farther and farther down to make sure that people just can't get into that courthouse at all. We started out a couple hours ago, people, when they first got into that courthouse, and this is what I was trying to tell you the last time, people started breaking windows, and before you knew it, people were setting things on fire, and they were throwing them inside of those windows of the courthouse. So the fire alarm actually in there is still going off. There's tons of water rushing everywhere. Then the police came over and sort of took control of it and started throwing out the tear gas. And that was about an hour ago. And they made it very, very clear. They said, citizens, get out of here. We're going to start throwing tear gas. And people kept coming back and kept coming back. The second wave, when people came back, was when they broke all of those lights. And I'm not sure during the last time that we were there, if you looked on the ground at all of those big, tall lights, people stood there probably for 30 seconds each flight. People were waving them back and forth until the whole thing fell. There's a lot of loud banging noises, and really one of the scary things is you're not sure what that is. Some of them you see, and it looks like fireworks that people are throwing out. Other it's tear gas, and other times it's these huge lights that are falling out and making this huge, loud popping noise. So this is what it is right now, and what it looks like is police are just trying to move farther and farther down the street to discourage anybody to even be here at all. There's still a few people standing at those front lines, and that scene might not clear up at all. There's really no way to tell, but you can even see that truck right there. That truck has moved its way farther down, and trying to prevent anybody from going over there. Earlier today, I was at the precinct, and this was a similar scene about 4 or 5 o'clock-ish when people started first getting to the precinct. It all started very calmly, and police did exactly the same thing. They all stood right in front of the precinct, and they really just stood guard in front of it. People started throwing water bottles, and then it escalated to people throwing bricks and trying to throw bricks through the buildings, and police brought out horses, and that's when things started to get a little bit hairy. People were hitting horses with water bottles, with bricks, whatever it was, and then the crowd dispersed. So we had a couple hours here where crowds were just going around certain areas and dispersed, and I think they weren't sure where exactly they were going because there were several different crowds going to several different places. And one thing Erica and Nikki touched on as well that we wanted to emphasize is we spoke with the people. This rally started as a peaceful protesting rally today. A ton of people. There was a huge amount of people there, all very peaceful and all, sharing their sentiments and talking about the life of George Floyd. And as people left there about an hour ago, the leaders of that rally, the people who organized that rally, they told us that they actually went home. They are no longer there, and they've been home. So the people that you see here, the leaders wanted to know that these people that organized it, they weren't involved. They had their intentions. They were all very, very peaceful intentions, and that's really wanted to get out. But then there are people that broke away from this, and then they started, and the destruction that you see here, and it really is, in some ways, a wave of destruction, but it has pockets. It goes in and it goes out, it goes in. So it's really whenever police come by and stop it before people go back and do something else and move on to a different area. So people obviously, it looks like, have moved on from this area. We're not sure where they are going. There was talk of people going to the Capitol for now, but we're not sure if that's the case right now. So we're going to go and follow the crowd. We're going to try to find where the crowd is.
AJ, you've been out there throughout the day. I've been following you on social media, on our Fox Nashville Facebook page. You were over there at the police precinct when things were getting heated in the crowd between different people. What exactly, can you explain what you were hearing over there? I know there was a lot. Explain that to us.
At the police precinct in the beginning. At the police precinct, as people moved on, people moved on from the plaza, and it was a big group of people walked down Rosa Parks, down Charlotte, and then ended up at the precinct. And it all started very, very calm. There was a front row of people, and that's where the police stood there, and they sort of formed a barricade between them and the precinct as people were throwing water bottles, people were throwing bricks at the windows. A few officers did get hit. Nothing really crazy was happening there at that time. It was mostly peaceful. There were people, emotions were heated. Police were standing there very stoic, very standstill with people in their faces, people yelling, but a lot of it was people just expressing their anger and their emotions, but everything was peaceful. It wasn't until after people left the precinct, and what happened was people turned away from the precinct and they started going under the bridge in the Music City. And as they were going under the bridge, that's when you really started seeing and hearing things pick up. We were behind the people at that time, but we could hear people throwing stuff inside that bridge. It makes a really loud echo. It's a really loud sound. It's hard to miss. And as you walk through that bridge, there's graffiti now all on both sides, and there's smashed windows in there. There's a lot of litter in there. And I think that's when it really started picking up, because later, a couple hours, when we got in here at the plaza, then police, for the first time that I saw during the day, and yeah, we've been covering this all day since the beginning, for the first time I saw that police started using pepper spray, and that was right here. And that was just when people were first getting here, and they had a little sort of brawl with police. Really what happened was police got surrounded by people, and people were taking the police officers' bicycles and they were throwing them over the railing. And that's, I think, really when it started, and police started using the pepper spray. And after that initial pepper spray, more people came in and more people surrounded the police, and police ended up using more pepper spray. So that's kind of how it escalated. And people did disperse for a time from there, but people just kept coming back and gravitating towards the city plaza for some reason. And I've been here looking at it all day, and I'm not sure if it was convenient and people kept going, or if they made a little bit damage and just wanted to make more. So that's the scene right now. So our next plan, what we're planning on doing, is going back and trying to follow that crowd, figure out where that crowd went again, just to see what that scene is. So that's our plan. We're going to move forward with them, and again, we'll be live out here giving you updates throughout the whole newscast.
Thank you so much. Certainly a lot going on here in Nashville, but we don't take you to a live look right now. Take a look at this. This is in New York City, and there is just so much going on. Streets blocked off, heavy smoke, heavy flames, people just running all over the place. It's very chaotic, and that's what we're learning. The New York City Police Department cruisers have driven into protesters there earlier, and they were pushing barricades against police cars, and several people were knocked on the ground. And we have no word just yet on how many injuries, if any, but you can see just how much is going on there right now. Definitely an active situation. You can see officers walking up and down busy streets trying to do their best, if they can, to de-escalate that situation and get folks to a safe area to practice these demonstrations the best way possible. We're also going to give you an update now from Governor Bill Lee regarding these protests in Nashville. We got this update not too long ago, and here's what it says, quote, "At the request of Mayor Cooper, I am authorizing the National Guard to mobilize in response to protests that have now taken a violent, unlawful turn in Nashville. The threat to both peace and property is unacceptable, and we will work with local law enforcement and community leaders to restore safety and order. This is not a reflection on our state or the fundamental American right to peaceful protest." And again, that statement coming in not too long ago from Governor Bill Lee regarding all of these protests in Nashville. And you can see on the screen right now all of those cop cars that are out there. We want to go back right now to Fox 17 News' Nikki Genoese. We were speaking with her. She's been giving us her updates from the historic courthouse area. And we want to mention again, watch out. There could be some profanity. People are definitely out there doing that. And we do want to mention, Nikki, as you were saying, there is a 10 p.m. curfew for Nashville. Right now it's 9:26, and people are still out there.
Yes, Erica, we are here live along Union Street outside of the Metro Courthouse, where police have formed a perimeter outside. They're trying to get the protesters to leave the property. I'm joined now by Ashley. Ashley has lived in Nashville for 14 years now, you were saying. You were telling me that you've been here since 3 o'clock.
Yes.
At 3 o'clock, it was very peaceful, very quiet. What changed from now to then?
When we went to the courthouse and they brought all the horses and they started doing all of the tear gas and all of this other stuff, so everybody kind of just got mad, and then everybody started doing everything.
Excuse me. Excuse us. Oh, so you were saying that when you said you had the experience of getting tear gas in your face,
Yeah.
what did that feel like for you?
It burned. Like,
It burned?
Yeah, it really did. Like really bad. Like probably like Nashville.
So can I ask you, why are you still out here now that you've had the experience of
I have black sons that I live here for, and I want them to have justice for all the black people, because we don't never get peace. Never get peace. Never. We
Shut the fuck out of me, bro.
So would you say that this is just about what happened in Minneapolis, or is this about something more for you?
It's about everything that happens everywhere. This is not the first time. It happened all the time. All the time. It don't happen to you, but it happened to us.
Okay, all right.
Out there, we want to apologize, but it is a very active scene. So Nikki was standing right outside of the historic Metro Courthouse, giving us an update from protesters who are out there. But again, as I was mentioning, there is a mandatory 10 p.m. curfew for Nashville. Right now, we're going to go back to Fox 17 News' AJ Abel. He is standing in the same area, just a little bit further down. I know earlier, AJ, we were hearing, I believe, fireworks. We were seeing people with light poles walking down. And what are you hearing now? I know you can kind of not hear me so well, but we're working out.
So right now, what we're hearing, there were fireworks, there was tear gas, and that's what I was saying earlier at the very beginning when you saw those people running out. That tear gas wave, it moves very, very quickly. And as I said before, you knew it. My photographer and I were running away. We're crying, trying to catch our breath, trying to catch our voices, and it's just going away now. So that was about 15 minutes ago. My face is still burning and just catching my voice now. But now the main topic is the curfew, and what we just heard was, as we see that police again, they're standing here blocking people from going even up on the steps. But about 10 minutes ago when we last talked, they were saying, everybody please get off, citizens get off of the Metro Courthouse. We will be using tear gas. Now they are saying, the curfew is in effect. They said, Mayor John Cooper said nobody's allowed to be out after 10 p.m. And the announcement that just came from the truck was anybody around the courthouse after 10 p.m. will be arrested. So we're going to see what's going to happen, because some of these people, it looks like they really have no intention of leaving here. And as I'm standing here, I predict that there will be people here at around 10 a.m. And then we're going to see what police end up doing if all of these people are going to start getting arrested. But that message is getting repeated every 30 seconds or so, saying, citizens, please get off of the Metro Courthouse. There is a 10 p.m. curfew. Anybody here will get arrested. There's also a lot of people that are bystanders here that really aren't part of this, but I've spoken with a lot of people, just on the side streets, people saying, I just wanted to come out here and see what this is all about, and I wanted to take some videos as this is going on. So there are plenty of people who aren't necessarily participating in this, but they're coming out and they're gravitating towards where all the action is happening, and I think maybe that's part of the problem. Police see a bigger crowd forming, but some of these people really are just trying to stand by. So we've heard that people are now moving down towards Lower Broadway, so we're going to leave you right now. We're going to start walking back towards Lower Broadway and see what's going on there, and hopefully give you an update about that in the next 5 or so minutes. But again, this is the scene right now, and the traffic is still moving through here, which is interesting. People blocked off the street for a little bit and then sort of dispersed, but traffic keeps going through, and a lot of these cars, some of these cars I've seen the same ones passing through and through, people making circles, making laps, people honking. There's a lot of loud motorcycles, a lot of noise, but I think some people are just finding them in the midst of this protest and trying to get through some of them peacefully without hitting anybody here. So as you see, there's music there right now, and this is sort of how it started when we were at the precinct. Things were very, very quiet, and then people started playing music, and it started getting a little bit more rambunctious. So this is the first time really that I've heard music being played here right now. So we'll see what happens here. We're wondering if people are going to bring more crowds back here, or if they are dispersing back towards Lower Broadway and moving towards the Capitol or back to the precinct, or be it. But for now, here at least, the fires are out. And earlier throughout the day, there were people at some points burning just whatever they could find. I saw people carrying American flags, setting them on fire, and people just walking with burning American flags throughout that lawn, I guess trying to make a statement about this. And also they were throwing those things just straight inside the courthouse. So here you hear all the people honking, and some people, honestly, they're really just trying to get through. We did see some people, however, stop in the middle of the street and get out of their cars and sort of join the protest, and then a couple minutes later get back into their cars. So, like I said before, it's such a fluid situation that you never know what's going to happen within the next 30 seconds or within the next minute, because everything changes, really everything changes. So we're going to leave you right now. We're going to start walking down towards Lower Broadway, and I'll give you an update about what's going on down there in just a few minutes. So for now, live in front of the courthouse, AJ Abel, Fox 17 News, that station.
You want to make sure that you and your photog are definitely as safe as possible. We want to go back over to Nikki. I know, Nikki, earlier you were saying that there was something in the air possibly that was being used to disperse people, that was making your throat dry, making it difficult to speak. Are you still experiencing that? We want to make sure you're okay out there.
Yes, Erica. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an update as to what's going on out here outside the Metro Courthouse. We are here along Union Street now, where the police line started really right in front of the doors outside the Metro Courthouse, and they have since moved closer here to the street. These Metro police officers are telling people over the intercom that there is now a 10 p.m. curfew in place, and they would like these protesters to go home. And as you just mentioned, there are a few different measures that were used to try to get these people to disperse. And one of them, I do believe, was tear gas. That seemed to be an effective strategy for these folks. Even for myself and my photographer, I mean, you can feel it. It really burns inside your nose. It burns inside your throat. It really hurts your eyes. So for a while there, it has gotten much better now, but for a while there, the air quality here was so poor. It was just uncomfortable, quite frankly, to be out here. But now we're going to show you, as you can see, there is still a group of protesters who they are standing their ground. They are refusing to go home. They are getting very close to the Metro police officers here who are guarding the front of the courthouse. And I will say they are doing so they're very stoically. They are not engaging the crowd at all. Throughout this, I've seen them, be taunted. I've seen some folks get very close to their faces, scream at them, yell at them, and they are not reciprocating that at all. At least that's what I will say I've seen here. So just earlier, I had spoke to one woman who had been here since 3 o'clock today, and she had been at the rally that was honestly very peaceful outside of Legislative Plaza. And I asked her, what do you think has changed since then? How did the energy of this crowd go from being so gentle to this? And she said she thinks that people are just... She doesn't really know what happened. She thinks that people just are really, really upset about what happened in Minneapolis. They remember the cases that have happened here in Nashville, and they said this is just the last straw. Enough is enough. They don't feel like their voices are being heard. They feel like this is about decades upon decades of injustice by law enforcement. And even some of these folks, who got a very direct hit of tear gas. I asked them, why are you still out here? And they said they just feel that strongly about this issue. And a lot of these folks as well, as you can see, I know we've talked a lot about social distancing, right, in the last couple of months here with concerns over coronavirus. A lot of folks have masks on, but a lot of them don't. And I said, is that something that you're concerned about? And they said, to them, this issue is well worth the risk to their health. So now it appears like there's something going on in the street here. I'm not quite sure what it is. If you're driving through Nashville tonight, downtown in particular, I will tell you, you'll want to be incredibly careful because a lot of the streets here are blocked off. Some of that is because there are Metro Police squad cars in the streets.
There is now a 10 p.m. curfew.
Okay, you just heard a reminder there for Metro Police. There's now a 10 p.m. curfew. Anyone who is here after 10 p.m. is going to get arrested. So that is the latest message here for Metro Police. Right now, it's about 9:36, thank you. So we got about 24 minutes here left for folks to get home. I will level with you, though. I would not be surprised if a lot of these folks did not go home. I think that a lot of these folks feel very strongly about staying here. They feel like they have not yet, they still want to stay. They still want to stay despite what they're being told. I can see one woman here is out with a trash bag. She's already working to clean up some of the debris, of which there is a lot of debris out here right now. Planters got knocked over. These huge light lamp posts, I should say, that are all over Public Square Park. Were wiggled out of the ground and then knocked over and then picked up and used as almost like javelins. So it's another reminder there to disperse. But so far, this crowd does not seem to be heeding these warnings. They are still staying here. Also, what we saw earlier, there were a lot of firecrackers going off. There were plumes of smoke that were coming from the grass here. I'll be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure what those were or where they came from, but if you were here, they were incredibly startling. They were loud. And also as well, there were bursts of tear gas that went out that also made things very unnerving out here. Very, it's upsetting. The energy out here is really tense. People here are really upset, and quite frankly, even though the curfew is 10 p.m., I don't know that I see this ending at 10 p.m. This very well could go on all night here in downtown Nashville.
And Nikki, just real quick, as you have been reiterating out there, the officers are saying, hey, you got to be out of here by 10 p.m., and you've been out there since about 9. That's when before 9, really. Are you noticing now, is the crowd getting smaller? From what we're looking at, it does look smaller, but what are you saying?
Oh, it's definitely smaller. Yes, a lot of these folks, I think, got very freaked out by some of the more aggressive measures that were taken on the courthouse. I think, honestly, at least for me, the light posts were really concerning because they are tall, and when they come crashing down like that, there is a very good chance that you could get hit. So I think for a lot of these folks I spoke with, these people, a lot of them are here from all over Middle Tennessee, these protesters, I should say. Some of them, I spoke to some folks who are here from Bowling Green, so they came here from out of state to protest here today. So I think for this core group who still feels like they haven't accomplished what they came here to do, I think for those folks, they will stay here. I think this core group that you look at here right now, I don't anticipate them. I don't see them leaving anytime soon. If you want to take another look at this police line here, they've come pretty close, almost up to the edge of Union Street here. I do expect them to continue to move forward to get these folks to go home. But in the last, 15, 20 minutes or so, I haven't seen any more fireworks. I haven't smelled or felt any more tear gas. So there's a voice coming out over the loudspeaker telling people, asking them to go home, but they are refusing. For some of these folks that you see here, this has been a long day for them here in Nashville, in the sense that they started at the rally that began at 3 p.m. and they have continued through the evening hours. So this is a long day. This is a very long day, but they feel so strongly about their message, about the message they want to get across, this is very much worth it for them to be out here and to, quite frankly, endure all of this chaos.
Nikki, earlier tonight, you were closer to the courthouse and there was graffiti. Kind of tell us what you were seeing, because now we're further back. We want to make sure people understand that.
Yes, what I'm seeing now here that's actually catching my eye is people are walking around with gallons of milk, and I believe that is going to be used should tear gas be deployed again. That was just something that caught my eye there. But yes, you are right. Earlier, we were closer to the Metro Courthouse, because that is where the police line was. And there is, if you look at the facade, the front of the Metro Courthouse, yes, it is covered in graffiti. The front windows that you see there, I am told they are broken. Objects were hurled through them. And so there is a significant amount of damage here. And as we mentioned, curfew is 10 p.m., but at this point, I don't know that I see folks heeding those warnings to go home. Back to you.
Nikki, thank you so much. Right now, we're going to go to Fox 17 News' AJ Abel. He is now on Broadway. AJ, we heard reports of businesses being broken into. So what are you seeing now that you're there? All right, so right now we're having a little bit of audio difficulties. We're going to work on getting AJ back up and running with that to give you that report. We are going to now take you to video of what's going on in LA. Take a look at this. You can see the streets there blocked off, a lot of police presence, just like what we're seeing truly across the country at this moment. Hearing similar reports like what we're seeing in Nashville, reports of a lot of damage, a lot of stores and businesses that have been destroyed. And this is a scenario that, again, we're seeing throughout several cities, throughout, I believe, Atlanta, Seattle, and then what we're seeing, unfortunately, here in Nashville at the moment. We do want to go back down to Broadway. I believe that AJ's mic is now working. AJ, what exactly are you saying?
Hey, Erica, sorry for that. There was a little technical difficulty there. We just walked down on Broadway, and this is what we came right up to. There was a full-on fire inside of a trash can. This was just one of the first things that we saw as we walked down 2nd Avenue and walked right on this to Broadway. As we were walking down 2nd Avenue, and even here, windows are busted out in businesses. These huge trash cans, if you look down 2nd Avenue, they are completely toppled over and trash is thrown all over the street. Several windows have been broken into. One of them right here behind us is the Redneck Riviera, and you can see as we focus into that window, somebody threw whatever it was, a brick or something else hard straight through that window. That's what it looked like walking down 2nd Avenue. There are at least 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, and as we walk through, 30 feet later, we see this fire on Broadway. So people obviously have made their way through, and I think the crowd is just a little bit ahead of us and what we're doing, and we're just actually going to start walking right now towards that crowd and hopefully try to catch up to that crowd. And we're wondering where that crowd is going, because this is likely, my guess is some of them will end up at that police precinct again. But again, we're just a little bit behind that crowd. So it seems pretty calm right now as we're walking here. And it's just like I was saying before, it gets calmer, but then all of a sudden it gets a whole lot worse. And it happens very, very quickly. So as we're walking down the street right now, you know, some damage, you see some toppled over scooters, everything else, but since
and AJ, I want to ask you, we know that a lot of these businesses on Broadway only recently started reopening their doors due to the stay-at-home orders. So are there a lot of people? Are you seeing people who are inside of these establishments? Are you seeing demonstrators? Who's out there exactly?
You know what? There are a lot of people, and earlier today when I walked down Broadway, there were just people, it looked like just trying to enjoy Broadway. So as the protesters were coming through, and even as I was walking through, there were a lot of people around 5, 6, 7 o'clock that were surprised really to see all of these people coming through, people trying to enjoy their days. Now I think people are less surprised, but there are still, if you look over on that other side, there are people who looks like they just came out here to enjoy Broadway. There are people we saw trying to walk in and out some of the stores. It does look like most of the places are closed. We're standing across Jason Aldean's right now, and everything is completely empty. I don't see any of these establishments being open right now. And earlier today, it looked like there were. It looked like people were out there trying to enjoy themselves. So the seat in front of us, obviously right here, you can see the fire truck, water going down, so we're not sure what happened. A little bit ahead of that all of this water is flowing through. But we're just going to keep walking and try to catch up to some of those people as we're a little bit behind the crowd. So we'll give you an update in about a few minutes as we catch up to somebody and figure out what else is going on there.
All right, AJ, thank you so much. Definitely want to keep up with what's going on Broadway. We want to also take you right now to some live video that we have, I believe, from New York. This is the scene that we're seeing. You're going to see some more demonstrators out there. The camera's moving kind of quickly, but demonstrators who are out there walking on the streets. We're not seeing a lot of officers in this particular area at the moment, but we know that was not the case throughout the day. You see a small fire on the side of your screen right now. Not sure about the particular curfew that they're having for this area at the moment, and it's a very stagnant shot, so we kind of can't see exactly what's going on, but you do see some officers right there, and certainly a lot going on, very active across the country tonight. This is a scene that we're seeing not only in New York, but in Seattle, in places like Atlanta, and now here in Nashville, and it's something that we're going to be monitoring throughout the night here at Fox 17 News. And we also have these videos. If you want to see what's going on in different parts of the country, you can go to our Fox 17 News Facebook page to see exactly what's going on. We do want to take you back over to AJ. He's on Broadway, and you see a major police presence. AJ, what are you seeing at the moment? We were hearing reports of businesses being broken into. Is that something that you are seeing in the area you're at?
Yeah, major police force, and actually, as you said that, you can see the police officers right there. They are walking through. So what it looks like they're doing is sort of the similar thing that they were doing at that courthouse, I think, is just trying to get people off of the street, off of the main business. And this might have been a catalyst for us. So if we look left a little bit, this is the boot barn right here. Sorry about that again. This is the boot barn, and as you zoom in, we can't really get any closer because the generator's running. You won't be able to hear me. But the windows are completely busted through, and there is a smell of a fire inside. So it seems like somebody threw something that was burning in there, and that's likely why these fire trucks are here. All of that water that you see on the ground is them trying to put out that fire very, very quickly inside of the boot barn. Now, I'm not sure if people ran in there and stole anything in there, but obviously everything is busted. And that may be part of the reason is that now you're seeing police officers walking down and trying to get people off the streets. It is a similar response to what we saw back there at the courthouse, where I said people, as soon as something would calm down, then people would go right back into it, and then there would be another, moment of craziness, and then it would calm down. There was tear gas, and we're not sure what's going to happen here if there is another crowd, if that's going to be tear gas or if that's going to be another heavy police presence right there, just walking with cars and trucks and getting out. We just saw a police car speed by us going the other side. He pulled out very, very quickly and sped by. So likely, as we keep moving on towards Broadway, there will be another scene going on there. So we're going to keep walking again, and we'll check in with you in just a couple of minutes and see what else we find as we walk along the road here.
Okay, thank you so much. We want to mention again that there is a curfew for Nashville, a 10 p.m. mandatory curfew, and Metro Nashville PD, they tweeted out information. The curfew is in effect at 10 p.m. and anyone who's out past that time is subject to arrest. But you can see we're taking another live overhead view of everything that's going on Broadway at the moment. Certainly not the Broadway that we are in any way used to seeing. You could see from AJ's live shot officers who were getting in their cars very quickly. They were speeding off to some other area. We are currently just trying to figure out exactly what is going on in that area. AJ is walking around there. We were getting reports or information about different businesses being broken into. Right now we are showing you some video from one of our photographers named Dykes of an arrest that is currently going on. We don't have information exactly what area is this. I'm trying to figure that out. I believe it's near the Metro Historic, the courthouse. She's downtown. That's where our reporter and photographer are at the moment. And you can see that gentleman is handcuffed, I believe, on the asphalt right there in the middle of the street. And officers right now are surrounding him as they speed off to another location, presumably. We don't know exactly where they are heading just yet, but certainly working on getting that information. And we just want to really stress here right now that there is a curfew that is in place, a 10 p.m. curfew. So it's 9:50 right now. We do know that people are still out and about. We can see them there on Broadway. We saw them earlier right outside of the courthouse when Nikki was speaking with us. But they say you are subject to arrest if you were out past that curfew. And again, this is a live look from Broadway where you can certainly see people who are out at the moment. And that's where our Fox 17 News' AJ Abel is working to get more information. We also have different live looks. Want to mention this again on the Fox Nashville Facebook page. So you can check in to see where exactly, or what exactly I should say, is going on in different areas. And matter of fact, we want to go right now to Fox 17 News' Nikki Jenowitz. She is right there. Nikki, what can you tell us about the whole scenario behind you?
Yes, Erica, we are here live at the corner of 3rd Avenue and Broadway, and I want to show you behind me, there is an arrest going on right now before our eyes. As you can see, Metro police officers have surrounded a suspect. Right now they have him handcuffed. He is on the ground. In all of the hours that we have been covering this unrest in our city, this is the first arrest that I have seen. Now you can see here, it looks like more officers are pulling up. They're walking around the vehicle. Looks like they're getting ready to take this person into custody. Now, unfortunately, we just got here, so I can't tell you the events leading up to this arrest. But as you can see, the officers here, I believe, are getting ready to detain this man here right on Broadway, right really in the heart of our city. Folks who know Nashville, they know Broadway. This is the home to all of to the music that makes Music City, right? All of our honky tonks. And there were a lot of folks out here trying to enjoy that tonight, as a lot of the Nashville reopening, I should say. There are more businesses that have opened for that. So a lot of folks here are kind of standing around watching this. But a good chunk, I would say, of Lower Broadway, a good stretch here, probably going from 3rd to probably at least 4th, maybe all the way up to 5th, is closed. So they are blocking off the streets, I should say, Metro Police is, to help or to manage some of the unrest that we are seeing here. Okay, so they just the gentleman that we just showed you getting handcuffed has been taken away in a Metro Police vehicle. To give you a feel for what's going on Broadway, it is just complete and utter chaos. I mean, right behind me here, I'm looking at a trash can that is on fire. If you come around here, you can see people are setting fire to our trash cans here in our city. That is what is going on here tonight. I've seen a lot of objects hurled through windows walking down here to Broadway. I saw glass windows that have been knocked in on hotels and businesses on 3rd. So this is really a total mess. Lots of buildings, just about every building I passed had some sort of graffiti on it. referencing feelings of injustice toward Metro police officers. So we just walked down here from the Metro courthouse. That is a scene that we've been at for the majority of the evening. And up there, they are still trying to get protesters away from the building. Earlier today, our understanding is that protesters were trying to set the Metro courthouse on fire. Those attempts were unsuccessful. However, what I believe Metro Police are trying to do is prevent that from happening again. The building, though, I will tell you, the whole front of it is completely covered in graffiti. So there is still lots of damage there outside the Metro courthouse. Here on Broadway, we're seeing what looks to be, you know what, we're going to try to cross the street here and show you a little more what's going on. We are seeing more protesters engaging more directly with Metro police officers. And as you mentioned, Erica, the curfew here is coming up in just a matter of minutes. And Metro police officers are not messing around. They cautioned people, if you are out past 10 p.m., you will be arrested. So let's...
Nikki's video is freezing at the moment. We're going to work on getting that. We want to send it back over to Fox 17 News' AJ Abel. He, again, is on Broadway, too, just a little further, I believe, down on Broadway. But, AJ, as we were seeing in Nikki's video, we saw dumpster fires, shattered glass, a lot of graffiti. What are you looking at right now?
There was, but you know what? The scene is a lot calmer right now. So if you look at this right now, Broadway, even then we just talked 5 minutes ago, Broadway is clearing up. The police presence from right here, at least, is gone. And if you look over that way, you know, it looks like a pretty free-flowing traffic area. All of the police presence from here is gone. Now, as we were walking there from just a couple blocks ago to where we walked right over here, we saw there was a trash can fire and there were also some rocks thrown through the windows. So a similar scene right there at Jimmy Buffett's and Margaritaville. A similar thing. As we walked through, there was a rock thrown there. So if you look at it in the stage, it was a similar thing that people walked through. So people walked through here. We are just here behind the wave of people that came through. Now, what's interesting here is, so this is AJ's Good Time Bar right there, and I came up and asked the people there, you can see that it's all boarded up, and what they were boarding up. They said that these are precautionary measures that they're doing. So I asked them if anything happened, if somebody threw something through the window, and the answer was they didn't. They said they were boarding things up as a precaution, just to make sure if people really do come back and people decide to throw something, they are trying to keep their business safe in any way that we can. And we see a few different people doing that. The answer to your earlier question, are things open? It doesn't look like anything right here is open right now. It looks like everything is closed, and people are, most business owners, I think, are trying to get out of the way and, you know, keep their things going. So there is some more police presence that is happening over there. We're going to keep walking down Broadway, and so far what we've done, you know, we've walked down through there and walked down from Broadway and behind this whole crowd of people. And everywhere we go, you know, there is a crowd of people. There are people standing behind us a lot of times, and this is just a part of it. This is part of, you know, they'll bring you live coverage. Now you hear these police sirens coming. We have no idea where they're coming from. And this is where they go. They went out, last we talked to you, they were going the opposite way. Now they are coming back this way, and they were coming straight through Broadway. So we're not sure what's going to happen. Again, we have some people coming in around us. So, Eric, I'm going to toss it back to you right now. I'll talk to you in a couple minutes.
Okay, thank you. We are seeing rallies like the one in Nashville throughout the country. We're going to show you another live look right now of what's going on in New York City. I know earlier I was mentioning that the New York Police Department, they had cruisers who they had driven into protesters, and they were pushing the barricades against police cars. That's what those protesters were reportedly doing, and several people were knocked to the ground. We were trying to figure out just how many injuries there were for that particular case. But again, we're taking a live look at what's going on in New York City. You kind of can't get a good eye of what we're seeing right now. Our camera is pointed upwards. We're trying to show you more so what's going on the ground there. We're going to work on getting that resolved for you. We are going to go back now to our Broadway camera to show you what is going on Lower Broadway. I mean, downtown Nashville, you can see a heavy police presence there. And you got to keep in mind that many of these businesses only recently started welcoming people back to their stores. And as our reporter, AJ Abel, was mentioning, some of those same businesses are now boarding up the front of their stores, making sure that, you know, their windows are not shattered, that they don't have any kind of graffiti, doing whatever they can, taking precautions. And well, you can see there's a lot going on right there. So we were talking with Nikki, and she was mentioning that there was an arrest down there on Broadway, and it was I believe she said the first arrest that she saw today. We are working to get more information about that, but we also saw shattered glass. We saw dumpsters that were on fire, and again, graffiti on buildings down there on Broadway. Certainly not something that we have ever seen there. And we want to mention it is now 9:59. Metro Police said, hey, there is a curfew that is in place. It is a 10 p.m. curfew. They have definitely tweeted out and shared information with all of us that say, hey, anyone who is out there past 10 p.m. is subject to arrest. So we want to make sure that everyone is well aware of their order and what they're asking people to do. We do have all of this information. Right now you can see that tweet from Metro Police asking people to follow the order. We're going to get back over to AJ Abel. Again, he is on Broadway in downtown Nashville. I believe he has another update. I know he's walking up and down. Right now he is outside of the arena. So AJ, what can you tell us?
So what we're doing right now is we're walking towards the police precinct, and I think that that's where all of the people from Broadway have gone. Again, as we saw right there from Broadway, still a little bit of a scene. You know, there's a few people walking by and a few people that are causing a scene, but some businesses just taking those precautionary measures as they're boarding up their businesses, and it looks like, but most of the crowds from there are gone, as I pointed out there too. Traffic is free flowing. Most of that police presence are gone, and I think most of the people, that is where they went. We are getting word that people did go to the police precinct, and as we get there, I imagine there will be some kind of crowd, and who knows, maybe this will be the place where these few different groups ended up coming together. As we said before, there were groups at the City Hall, and there were several groups everywhere else as they were walking back, but it seemed like that big group never actually got together since about midday when they left this precinct. So who knows if this is where they're going back to as a meeting point, and this could go on all night. You know, there's really no telling when this will end, and it depends how proactive I think that police presence is, because as I've said through multiple of these conversations we have, it goes in and out and in and out, and as soon as police show up, the people leave, but they just go to a different spot. And I think even for officers, it's hard to know where that next spot is going to be, so I think there are a little bit of disadvantages. They're also following the crowd, sort of like we're doing. We're following the crowd, and the crowd moves quick.
AJ, I know you've been walking, or you are currently walking up and down Broadway, but you've been out here following this throughout the entire day. You were there at the rally when it was a peaceful protest going on, and then you were there outside of the police precinct. I asked Nikki this question. Did you ever imagine that hours after that rally you were going to be covering this situation that's unfolding here in Nashville?
You know, really did not, from what it was like at that protest today. The protest was very peaceful, and everybody, you know, when people were talking there, and the people that I did interviews with multiple people, and also just spoke off camera with a lot of people, and really what people were there, they were just expressing their frustrations. That's what they were there to do. There was a lot of emotions that were going there, and I think people have a lot of hard feelings there. The frustration really came out, but everything was peaceful. There was nobody throwing things there, as far as I could see. Again, that was 3, 4 o'clock. That lasted probably about an hour. And then it was after people started moving from there that it got escalated and escalated, and as it got darker and darker, I think things are escalating a little bit more and more. But what I touched on a little bit ago, maybe a half hour ago when we talked, was the people who organized that original peaceful rally. They have since gone home, and they've reached out to us and told us that they're not having any part to do with what is going on right now. So these aren't the people, at least what they have told us. They're not the people that are walking through Broadway and throwing things through windows and setting the trash cans on fire. This is the residual group of people that are coming out and doing this. And there's, no way to know how long this is going to go. But did I imagine that this was going to be the scene standing in that rally? I really did not. And my photographer and I, we were talking as we were following the crowd. We said, this has a chance to be really, really peaceful protest. And as the day kept going on, I think these little instances just kept piling up, and now the instances are getting bigger and bigger. As I mentioned earlier, it really all started with when people came up to City Hall and people started throwing police bikes, and police officers got a little bit surrounded there, and that's when they started using pepper spray. That seemed to me like what was the catalyst because before most of it really was pretty peaceful.
It's now 10:03, AJ. If you look around, are people following that curfew, that 10 p.m. curfew?
It looks like it, and there's right now, I mean, you can see around us, there's really not that many people in sight. There's somebody riding a scooter and a few people walking by. It seems like people are following that curfew, but what we don't know is when we get to the precinct, how many people are going to be at the precinct. Is it most people who maybe were on Broadway, some people just enjoying and weren't part of this at all, heard about the curfew, everybody got their alerts on their phones, at least I did, and maybe went home. But at that crowd, I imagine they will now be following that 10 o'clock curfew. So, but that's, only time will tell when we get there. But the streets are empty, and whether that's people following the curfew or just moving on from the streets, I'm not really sure at this point.
AJ, thank you so much. Make sure to stay safe out there. That's a good point, though, as he was mentioning with the police precinct. It was a very heavy presence out there earlier today, so we should check back in with that. Right now, we're taking another live look. As we were mentioning, this is in New York City, and you can see that is a police cruiser that was set on fire. A lot going on in that area, as well as across the country right now. And you can see there's still some demonstrators who are out there on the streets. They are driving by, trying to see what exactly is going on in that area. But for the most part, you see a lot of officers. They have this area blocked off. They're asking people to head home for the night. Some people are listening, others are not. I do not know what the curfew is for that particular area. If it's like here in Nashville where they're saying, hey, head home at 10 p.m. Certainly they're on a different time than us. But again, you can see this area is blocked off. That again is in New York City. And as I've been mentioning all night long, this is a scene that we're seeing in cities across the country tonight, and as well as last night, something that we were also seeing there. And we're moving our camera around a little bit, but you don't see a lot of protesters out there at the moment, any demonstrators. Again, just a heavy police presence in that particular area. You see some flashing lights, the crews, the first responders who are definitely staying busy there tonight. We're going to give you another update, though. We want to talk to you about WeGo services and what's going to be happening with them. We do know that WeGo Public Transit has announced they're going to temporarily suspend services in response to everything that is going on today with the protests. The company tweeted out an announcement earlier today talking about this. They say that the decision comes in an effort to protect the safety of riders and drivers. That's their top priority, of course. And they're apologizing for this inconvenience. They know it's going to impact a lot of people, and they say they're going to make an announcement when they do have regular operations resuming. But again, as of right now, WeGo saying that they are going to temporarily suspend their services. And again, this is all about protecting the safety of riders and drivers. If you want to get more information on that, just go to our website, fox17.com. And of course, we'll be sure to update you as soon as their regular operations do resume, of course. We are going to go to another tweet that we want to show you, and this is from Senator Marsha Blackburn, and I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. Of course, you can look at your screen right now. It says, quote, "The death of George Floyd was tragic, but rioting and looting are not the answer. Law and order must be restored, and citizens must be protected." She goes on to thank Governor Bill Lee for activating the Tennessee Military Department. So again, that tweet coming from Senator Marsha Blackburn tonight, just about a couple of minutes ago. We're going to head back over to Fox 17 News' AJ Abel, I believe, who again is on Broadway. He's been giving us updates there. He is walking up and down Broadway. AJ, you're staying busy. What do you have to tell us now?
So we are still walking towards the precinct, but as you were talking about that curfew, you were asking if people were following it. It looks like it is, even as we've made it down through the street. It's pretty empty. There's just a few people around us. There's a couple of people on scooters around us. There's in front of us, a few cars, a few motorcyclists, but really the streets are empty. And it's a little bit of amazing to see how empty these streets are from what you just saw 15 minutes ago. We just talked 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. And I showed you police officers walking in that line down Broadway, and I showed you some of the damage that was on Broadway and how many people there were. And even by the time we made it up from Lower Broadway, a little bit farther up, there were fewer and fewer people. And now as we're walking towards here, there's almost nobody here. So I think people are following the curfew. And what's also been interesting is there's a lot fewer police cars. You see one driving by here right now, but on my most of the walk through middle of the Broadway, let's say, down to here, really not many police cars at all. So We're wondering where some of these protesters went and whether or not some of those measures that police took caused some of those people to go home and disperse. But right now, we're still going to keep walking towards the precinct and see what the scene is going to be there. But even if you look in front of us, completely empty. So when we get there, we'll check in with you again in probably just a couple minutes. Erica, back to you.
AJ, thank you so much. And we know that even though our coverage is stopping right now, there is a lot going on and this is not ending and there's a lot more to cover. So we want to make sure that you can go to our Fox Nashville Facebook page, go to our Twitter, go to our Instagram. Make sure that you are getting the latest updates. We were going to be out here working hard. We're going to have our reporters out here trying to get you the latest information to keep you safe. And we want to make sure that you're following that curfew again, 10 p.m. So everyone just stay at home, stay safe. And again, go to our Fox Nashville Facebook page. We're going to be out here following this story, not only tonight into the later hours, but also we're going to be updating you, of course, tomorrow. And I just want to make sure that everyone is staying safe tonight. And again, a lot going on out there. And we thank you so much for sticking with Fox 17 News. And we're going to have much more continuing updates throughout tonight and tomorrow.